The political crisis in Ukraine coming to a head today. Parliament voting to oust the nation's president. However, the leader, he's refusing to step down as he remains in hiding with his supporters in the Russian-leaning eastern part of the country. Meanwhile, the opposition taking control of the capital, seizing the president's office today as former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko speaks out to the crowd, vowing to run for president. Again, this is after she was released from prison. Joining us now for more on this, retired Navy Captain Bob Wells, a former National Security Special Advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Arthel.
So much to talk about. Let's go here for starters. Let's talk about what happens next to Ukraine. Yanukovych says, look, you can tell me to go, but I'm not going to resign. Yet his cabinet is promising a transition into a new government. Of course, an early election, as you know, is already set for May 25th. So I ask you, how much involvement will the opposition protesters have in government affairs moving forward? And will Ukraine go more in line with European Union or Russia in terms of politics and the rights of people?
Thank you again. I think, first off, it really is important, speaking as you just laid it out with regard to the details about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine with the opposition, with the president in Kharkov in the Russian sector of Ukraine, for a stepped-up effort with U.S. diplomacy. We certainly are in touch with our embassy there in Kiev. We're also watching very closely. This has been a very fluid situation. It's been very tragic to watch this almost Civil War level like circumstance occur inside Ukraine. Critically important country to the United States. Lots of interest involved here, obviously, with the Russian Federation, the United States, the European Union, Germany, France, etc. So looking at the next steps, though, it all is right there in Kiev with this one particular power center with the parliament. Also in Kharkov with the president there right now in consultation with some advisors, former parliamentarians, as well as some Russians.
Explain to us, though, why Ukraine is so important. We're talking about economically and as far as military positioning there with the Black Sea. Explain why it's important, as you already said, of course, to the U.S., to European interests, as well as to Russian interests.
I'll start with the Russian interest there. As you probably recall, it was part of the Soviet Union. In fact, Kharkov used to be the center of the former Ukrainskaya Socialist Republic. Most of the energy, natural gas pipelines come through Ukraine and do support the former Soviet bloc and also the free nations of Western Europe. The Black Sea Fleet, the Russian Federation fleet, special protocol there after the Berlin Wall came down to operate the Russian Federation fleet out of Sevastopol. For the European Union, energy interests are certainly a primary concern. Also, the European Union and all the different bordering countries, Hungary, Poland in particular, have growing economic interests. And then finally, the American interest, making sure that we have a stake in the freedom and the aspirations of the Ukrainian people, but also be wary of the Russian Federation sensitivities and concerns with regard to Ukraine, but also the European Union and their particular history in the recent past.
Sure. And as you know, Putin was shelling out a lot of billions of dollars to Ukraine while Yanukovych was still there. So what is Putin's next move?
Ukraine is critically important to Vladimir Putin and to the Russian Federation for a long history. His next move is to maintain a sphere of influence, looking at holding on with regard to the economic as well as the security relationships that he's got with the Ukraine. He's working with the Europeans, and he's also talking with President Obama with regard to the future of the Ukrainian.
How honest are those talks, really?
That's always a great question. There's always quite a bit of intrigue, and certainly the Russians have been involved maybe too much with regard to the internal politics of free Ukraine. Ukraine has been a sovereign country, 46 million people, and the Russian Federation do have interest, but the Ukrainian people and their particular elected government should have the policy prerogative, not the Russian Federation.
Yeah, and I know moving forward, Captain Wells, we're going to be watching to see how much the people, how much say they will have in the government moving forward. Listen, I'm out of time. I do appreciate your expertise, and it's always good to see you, sir. Have a good Saturday afternoon.
Thank you, Arthel.
Of course. And Nice work.
Yeah,
Nice
it was
to see
really
you.
fun.
We'll do
You're
it again
smooth.
at 6.
It's hard to keep up with you.
Well,
I got to
please.
practice before we come back at 6.
I paid him lots of money.
You're doing
Stop
awesome.
it already. Keep it here.
And
because
we're going to be together at 6 Eastern with
yes.
Ms. Smooth right here. And
Mr. Dapper
a healthy you and Carol Alt next.
is up next.